really a follow-on is that the process, basically the sales funnel and the action plan, we need training, we need better definition, we need better process. I'm going to go at it today. Then the practice itself, converting leads to prospect. It's a bit of a noise in the background. I don't want to mute yourself unless you have something you want to share with us. So the practice is really going to focus on the open house. We are ready to roll that out, and that is significant. And then the last one, we're going to talk about the training next week, the day in the life, a case study, and particularly for the salespeople. So I'll jump in directly to basically what I would call a situation and the findings. So in the automation process, we find that collecting intelligence, the customer intelligence collection is going very well. The nurturing, the communication part is going very well. The sales funnel in itself is also producing and is working for the most part. Of course, it takes time to really get this to work, to process. But the major challenge we are having is really in the action plan or in the combination of the sales funnel. And see if I can do this gracefully here. So in this area here is really what the discussion today would focus on. So let's see if I can get out of this. Oh yes, I double click on this, and then I believe I can. I didn't necessarily want this to happen, so
You changed presenter options, Runa.
Oh, really?
Yep, that's how you do it. Oh, looks like you did. Looks like you did.
Okay.
You're back.
Okay. Okay, so now I can go back. I think my system hangs a little bit. So the sales funnel itself, this is the findings. I went in and I took one of the clients and I analyzed the sales funnel. So I actually exported the sales funnel into a spreadsheet. I took all the hot leads. It could be leads, could be prospects, but basically they are C and Ds. I can see a significant score on every single one in the sales funnel. I can see how many follow-up notes I had that correlates to the opportunity. I can see how many emails I sent and how many emails was opened. And I made certain conclusions. One conclusion is that there is a significant average score on the client side. So the leads and the prospects are heavily engaged. Then if I look at some other data, I found interesting observations. So if I take this sales funnel and I basically look at, this is not necessarily a typical sales funnel, but hopefully will in the future this will be typical. So I have a sales funnel with 1,328 leads and prospects. There's about 990 of those are leads. And essentially in the sales funnel, I have about 8% of the leads, or 76 of those are actually hot leads in the system. So that is the situation. What I find then is that the average score is 483, a very high average score, in my opinion. I find out that we have sent about 27 emails to each person in the sales funnel, and we have an open rate of 56%. That is a remarkably high open rate. I've never seen it before, but it shows a very high level of engagement. And then I find that the salesperson follow-up is 1.3 follow-up notes. 55% of those, we have no follow-up note at all, and 83% have 2 or less follow-up notes. So the conclusion of this, and I'm going quickly through this, but I want to get to the conclusion. The conclusion is really that the automation process is working exceptionally well. I'm very, very happy with the way that's working. And on the other side, I find that the related direct sales follow-up is exceptionally low. And the consequence of this is that the question, are we wasting sales-ready opportunities? Are we developing opportunities through the automation process that we are not harvesting, that we are not, getting the benefit from. So what we did was that in last week we did a quiz to the salespeople, and we asked them 3 questions. Number 1, are we wasting opportunities? Are we losing out on opportunities? And the answer coming back again was yes, we are losing opportunities because the second question, the biggest issue, is that we have challenges with converting leads to prospects. And what we need, what came back from the salespeople, is that we need to have better process, better definition of the process. We need better training, and we need better coaching in this area here. So I think Rick and I am going to hammer on this thing to get through it. It's not necessarily anyone's fault. It's not the salesperson's fault. I think it's basically this is kind of new behavior, new territory. We're dealing with the invisible market. We're dealing with a lot of automation stuff that is new to salespeople, and there is definitely an opportunity here to improve.
Yeah, and I think I just want to dovetail onto that. We're not trying to throw salespeople under the bus here. The thing is that you can't learn how to do this by sitting in a model home or at a home show or getting your real estate license, or even if you go to a sales training class specifically for new home sales or remodeling sales, they don't teach this stuff. And we have technology obviously that 99.9% of builders and remodelers don't use. And so what we have to do is really just teach this simple process and really think more like internet marketers. And how are we going to take that online lead and get them on site? That's what's new. And I think what we saw is that salespeople just aren't doing it because they don't know how to do it. It's not that they don't want to do it; they just don't know how to do it.
So, in order to do this, then there are 3 ways that we're going to focus on, especially in this meeting. One is I have prepared a definition of the process step by step. What are the responsibilities of the sales manager, and what are the responsibilities of the salesperson? What should they do on a weekly basis? What should they do? What should they do on a daily basis? And what should they do on a weekly basis? Another new thing coming up is basically analytics, and the first focus on that, surprise, surprise, is going to be on salesperson performance. So we are developing a salesperson scorecard, and I'll review that quickly with you, in a minute or 2. And that is also close to being done. So I was saying at the beginning of June, you should be able to, as a sales manager or as an owner, you will receive a scorecard on each salesperson. Of course, the salesperson will also receive that scorecard, and we can then have a dialogue about, how we can measure, and see how we can improve, how we can move forward. And then I want to get deeply into the open house, because this initiative will be ready on Monday. And it's of course critical, for Hallmark Homes. And as we looked at the calendar, there's pent-up demand for this, and I think this is pretty cool stuff. So I'm excited about sharing this with you. So the first thing is then basically the process overview. Process overview has 3 steps or 3 major, activities in my mind. The first one is basically the daily sales manager activity, which boils down to reviewing and assigning opportunities, reviewing all the opportunities in the sales funnel, and then basically assigning those to salespeople. Salespeople then on a daily basis go in, they analyze, what's in the sales funnel, put together plans, and then complete follow-up notes, and for the purpose of converting the leads to prospects. And then on a weekly basis, salesperson or sales manager is then in monitoring and supporting sales rep performance. So I'm going to basically take those 2 categories, the sales manager responsibilities and the salesperson responsibility, and I'll go through this conceptually, and then I'm actually going to go into the system, and I'm going to show you how we are doing this. And I believe, Rick, you're also planning some video or something in this area, so there'll be some collaterals that we can go back to and look at and next week there will be a significant, maybe this next 2 weeks, we will actually focus on this conversion aspect. So the first step then from the sales manager is to go in, step number 1, go into the sales funnel and the customer one-on-one, review all the sales funnel activities. And the reason why it's important to review all, not only the hot ones, but everything, one thing I want to clarify is that scores, which is a heavier processing activity, is done nightly. So we might actually have things in the sales funnel that is white, that is not hot, being emerging, or basically looking like it's not a high activity, not hot, but in reality they are, because it happened today and the process runs tonight. And there's usually not that many. It's usually in the sales funnel there are probably less than 10 activity, more like 5 to 6, 7 new activities, and I think it's good to review all of those every day. Yeah, and then make the assignments to the sales rep. And you have a certain philosophy there of what sales reps should be getting these opportunities, Rick?
Yeah, this was actually brought by a client of ours who's still in Fast Start, but they more or less said, if I have salespeople that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, I'm not going to give them any leads. And Chris, you and I had a conversation about this last week. I think you and talked to Gordon about it, and you guys agree. If you've got 2 or 3 or 4 salespeople and 2 of them are doing stuff and 2 of them aren't, why give the ones that aren't doing anything any leads? So when we get to the scorecard part of this, you guys now will be getting weekly scorecards emailed to you. So you are going to be able to look at the performance of each of your salespeople each and every week. And I guess I'll just walk right into this. Mm-hmm. It's important, when you look at these scorecards, is you use them for 2 tools. Number 1 is, hopefully, if somebody's doing their job, you recognize them in front of their peers. There's a thing in sales management, which I failed at miserably when I first started, is you critique privately and you praise publicly. And so you got a good scorecard. It should be done as a publicly recognition. I also think you could have some fun with this, where you could do a monthly contest if you have more than 1 salesperson, where whoever gets the highest cumulative score in a month would win something. And that could be as simple as having a preferred parking spot at your office, for the salesperson of the month, or perhaps a gift card, to a local restaurant. Number 2 is, we have motivation on here. But David, you and I talked about this with one of your salespeople. If you see that somebody is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, I suggest a 60-day plan. In other words, you need to sit down with them. You need to put together a 60-day plan of here's some goals that need to be done within 60 days. And those performance goals could be anything from a purchase agreement to a plan deposit, home site reservation. It could be to getting a certain number of appointments, and it should be. It should follow a whole sales process. And then that salesperson actually signs off on the plan. By the way, if you want to see an example of one of these, I'll be happy to send it to you. The salesperson signs off on the plan, and then each week you review, are they meeting the goals within their plan? And I always, learn something that I think is very, very true, that is that you never fire anybody. They de-hire themselves. So as long as you have a clear set of expectations going forward, either they are meeting or exceeding those expectations, or at least trying to, at least putting forth effort. But if you see somebody that's not consistently doing that, then they have to be moved out. Which gets us into, of course, the recruiting and all this other stuff, which, I have a system for that, and all of you have access to it. And, we're talking about integrating that into Ubix here in the future. And then number 3 would be reinforced training. So if you see a particular section on the scorecard where somebody is not doing well, so there's several different areas they're scoring on, but they're not doing well, is you identify that area and come up with a training plan, and I'll be happy to put that together for you, and then reinforce that training on a weekly basis. The key thing is here is, do you have the right people on the bus? Are they motivated? Are they trying to do what they're supposed to be doing? Or are they just not getting it? And sometimes people just don't get it. If you get someone like that, no matter how much training or reinforcement you give them, they're not going to succeed, and it's best for both of you just to cut ties. So again, going back, yeah, I think leads should go to the people that are actually putting forth the effort, participating in the training, and showing good faith that they're going to take that lead and convert them into a prospect and a sale. Thoughts, questions, feedback from anybody there?
Well, I just add, the thing I would add to what you said, Rick, is in our discussion about this is, it's the people that are doing the training that are going to have the most success with converting these leads. And also, so that's a little bit of our focus in trying to give them the leads. So those that aren't doing the training, because they'll just flop with them.
Exactly. Yeah, and you pay way too much for these leads. I mean, each of these leads is worth hundreds of dollars. I mean, I should say you've paid hundreds of dollars for each lead to the company. You can't squander them. They're too precious. So don't put them in the hands of people that actually will do the right thing with them.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the salesperson side, the salesperson responsibilities. So this is then the assign opportunities to the salespeople. They will go into the sales funnel. They basically review their view of the sales funnel, and again, they also will review everything that's been assigned to them. So that's live. The next step then is to drill down to customer one-on-one. So you look at each opportunity, you click on the customer name, you drill into customer one-on-one, and you analyze basically, where they are. You look at the top part and you see, the scoring side of it. You look at the time dimension of it, and if they're scoring in least, in the last, little while. Put the plan together, and then basically create the follow-up directly, and I'll go through this in more detail, directly from customer one-on-one. Then once that is done, you go into the action plan, and in this one, the next step then is to deal with the action requests. Now these are the follow-up that basically is generated by the system, typically from people for filling out surveys on the website. So you go in, look at those. You can do one or two things. Well, you could do one or three things. You could do nothing, of course. But rather, you should go in and then decide what to do, send an email, make a follow-up phone call, basically update what you want to do, when you're going to do it. And then as you save that, it actually then converts to a follow-up note. Or the other possibility is basically to go in and ignore it. For some reason, you don't want to follow up on this. You have too much to do, and you can ignore it. But you should deal with it. And then the last step in the, from the salesperson's point of view, is the completing follow-up notes, in the system on a daily basis. Then you have scheduled activity. You go in and you complete those. Either you do the task or you ignore it, and you keep the action plan clean. Now this, I understand, Rick, is very much next week or maybe next 2 weeks that you're going to go through with the salespeople.
It'll be actually over the next month. So and I'll show you the outline. I want to get your feedback on what I'm doing. I'm splitting it up into two parts. So part number one is going to be converting a lead to a prospect. So in other words, taking someone that came in online that you haven't met yet, engaging them through email, getting them on the phone, and getting them out to your location, so on-site. And then part two is going to be once they get on-site, moving them to a prospect to a buyer. Specifically either get them to a purchase agreement or a plan deposit. One of those two, depending on how your process is set up.
Okay. So I'm going to go through this again, just kind of quickly from both perspectives. So from the sales manager perspective, the job there is basically look at the sales funnel, look at what happened today, maybe what happened yesterday, look at the ones that are unassigned. I would say drill in to that particular customer, look at what that customer is doing, what the response is to email communication, what's going on in the behavior of the customer, what the customer is interested in, and then basically go in and make an assignment to a salesperson. You do it here, or you can go in and make the assignment here. And I think this is going pretty good. I understand that, most of this is being done on a on a daily basis. Of course, if you are both the sales manager and the salesperson, I would suggest that you do this on a practice, practicing doing this, and then as we expand the business, we already have a procedure to do that. The next step, I would say, then, is the salesperson going in here, and I could go in here, I could select maybe Mary in this one, and we can see everything that she has assigned to her. She will then go into a particular customer. She would essentially go through the same analysis. We go through here and see, okay, this person was active in the last couple of days. This person is heavily into consideration and commitment type of scores. And we have significant score in the last 30 days. Yes, I do want to, reach out to this person. I can see that this person has a 60%, open rate, and I can see in particular, what this person is interested in. So I could, as we know, jump into here, see that this person, was looking at, specific things. Oops, lost that one. And then I can basically just, kind of click my way through, what this person, spent 25 seconds on this one. Look at that, look at, basically the behavior side, and then decide, okay, well, wow, spent a minute and a half, on the Cheyenne, and, form an opinion basically of how to proceed, how to move forward from here. So the task then would be to go in, actually, you could go in, right in here. You can then create a follow-up note. Yes, I'm going to follow up on this person tomorrow. I'm going to send an email. I'm going to make a follow-up call, and I have started this. And if you wanted to do it, you could actually go, right in here and actually, send the email from in here, and then basically send the email. We'll go through some template things that Rick is putting together, kind of, the AITA model that Rick has. Is going to put together some templates, and you could actually do the task right here. You could even, if you wanted to, you can basically say, it's completed, it's done, or it's planned for a certain date in this one. Then the next step would be for the salesperson to be in the action plan. The third step in this one, as we went through, is that you will go down and basically find an action request. Here's an action request. Go in here, take a look at this, and basically, check out the customer, decide what to do, take the action, save this, plan it, save it, and then this follow-up note then actually converts. This action request then actually converts to follow-up note and goes into the schedule of things that needs to be done. And then the last step then is back to the salesperson side. The salesperson will go in and basically look at things from the sales manager will go in and look at things from the salesperson's point of view. So if I went into this one, looked at Mary's schedule, I can then see that Mary is a genius. She has everything under control. Every single action request, everything follow-up notes is done. Done. So she's really getting the hang of this. So any comments, any thoughts, Rick, any additions to this?
I think, unless anybody else has any comments, what I'll do is I can open up, or maybe you can show that outline of the training, and so everyone can see how this will tie into utilizing Ubix in the design build process.
Okay, and do you have control, Rick, if you want, in case you want to?
I think maybe you.
Okay, you should have control now if you want to go through this. That'd be great.
Yep, I do. So very simply, I put together some specific goals on how this should work. The day in the life part one is converting leads to prospects. So again, part two is prospects to buyers, or plan deposit at the very least. And we're looking at utilizing technology. What are the tools here? So we have Ubix, we've got email, There's something that I'm going to introduce called TimeBridge, which is a scheduling software. It's a free software that anybody can register for, and it allows you to pick out up to 5 different times and email them to multiple people and let them choose what's their preferred second and third time, and then once you get that information back, you can coordinate the best time. So if you have a busy spouses, different schedules, it's always hard to coordinate schedules. Everyone can look at this in the cloud and pick the time that works best, and then you coordinate the meeting from there. And it could be as simple as scheduling a phone call, not only for a meeting. How texting can be used to reinforce, and then the phone. Let's face it, a lot of people aren't using the phone enough, and they rely too much on perhaps email and or texting. So what we're going to show is how all these work together in order to accomplish this goal, converting the lead to a prospect. So I will go through then just real quickly defining the lead to a prospect. What is it? The one-way versus the two-way communication. A lead has come into the system, most likely online. You haven't talked to them yet, but you're trying to figure out what's important to them, and then use that to follow up. So the next thing we'll look at is taking a look from the prospect or lead's perspective. So WIIFM, that's something that I learned a long time ago in my sales training. You guys have maybe heard it before. It's your when they say your buyer's favorite radio station. And of course, most of you know what it means, but it's what's in it for me. So in other words, we have to think like the lead or the prospect for what's in it for them. Why would they want to talk to me? Which is ultimately what we're trying to do here. A big problem that I see with every salesperson out there that is not trained is they give out too much information too fast. Gordon, I remember one of the guys that you had, I think maybe Mike was his name, but you looked at his quarterly stats, and he had shown your available homes 40, it was like almost 50 times, if you remember we were looking at that. It was almost 50 times, and the guy didn't have a single appointment. So in other words, he was just throwing mud on the wall, but he wasn't getting anyone to sit down with them to really analyze what their needs are. So controlled use of information. And so what does that mean? Well, interest and desire is something that we're gonna focus on heavily here. And I'm going to give each of the salespeople a formula to follow. It's AIDAT. So A stands for attention, I stands for interest, D stands for desire, A stands for action or call to action, and then T is simply thank you. So the interest and desire is very important here. This is the edge that we have. When we do a control this information, we have 3 built-in interests from all of our leads. People have an interest in design, they have an interest in locations, and they have an interest in pricing. And how do we know that? Because when we look at the analytics on all your websites, that's where people spend their time. They're looking at your locations, they're looking at your available homes, they're looking at your design library, your photo galleries. That's where they're spending their time. And so we know that's what we have. So what do we do here for design interests? So I'm a salesperson. How can I use controlled use of information and on design? So D, desire. So the buyer has an interest in design. How do I create a desire for design? Okay, so I have 3 different tools here, inherent. I have my design library online, which they may or may not have access to yet. I've got my custom plans and projects. You all have the homes that you've built. You've got libraries or file cabinets full of plans where you've done either modifications of a model home, or you've done the different versions of a kitchen, or what have you. But you've got all these, and of course none of them are online. But oftentimes when we're talking to somebody, they want to make similar changes, and we can pull out one of those plans, which is pretty close to what they want. And then we have the open house, which Runa will talk about here a little bit more in a second. Okay, moving on. We have location interest. Then we have location desire. So how do I create desire using the control use information? All of you should be tracking, if you build offsite, and I know some of you, not all of you build offsite, but if you do build offsite, you should be tracking area lots. And these could be anything from something on the MLS to if you have like a local developers council at your HBA that keeps track of lots, to just MLS, what's there. But you should all have a lot book. And you can use this to create desire. Okay, so why would somebody want to come in and talk to you or meet with you? Because you have information they're looking for. Bank owned. I know there's not as many around as there used to be, but bank owned, of course, is a buzzword. So if I knew someone was interested in locations based on the interest that they showed that I found in Ubix, I can say, hey, I have a list of bank owns in blank area. Would you like to take a look at it? And that would be my action as far as my using that formula. And then finally, neighborhoods. You've got obviously existing neighborhoods that you're building in, and you've got new and upcoming. You know, like Gordon, right now you've got some new and upcoming stuff. You guys should be using that to build a priority list. NIH has some new neighborhoods upcoming, so everybody wants what they can't have. Town Lakes, you know, Yvonne, from your perspective, would be a good one to use for upcoming neighborhoods. Okay, then I have pricing interest, and I've got pricing desire. So what does that look like? Well, from a desire standpoint, I have information on the MLS. I can offer a CMA on their current home. I can offer a CMA on my model or available homes. I've got completed homes and projects, so I can tell people what others have spent in a similar situation. And then from a remodeling standpoint, I've got Hanley Wood, where I've got, again, a third-party database of prices. So then I'm going to go into, okay, here's the process. Number one is we have to solicit an email response. Number two, we have to set a time to talk on the phone. And number three, we have to schedule an on-site meeting. So now I've got my lead in the invisible market. I'm getting it on the phone, and then I'm going to go and I want to get them on site. So here's 3 tips that we will focus on. Okay, so one is engagement. So getting that email response. I'm going to go through 10 do's and don'ts of email follow-up. Most of us have never had any email training, and so we're using a lot of bad practices when it comes to email. We give out too much information. Our subject lines are poor. You know, we have multiple calls to action within the email. And the most important part about an email, obviously, is the subject line, because if it doesn't get opened, it does no good. Then we're going to focus on the AID formula. Remember, the I and the D are things that we use from, or the I is from Ubix. We go back and we look in the sales funnel, we look at their history, we know what they're interested in. So then I'm going to use that desire here. So my case study is the online lead to on-site prospect. My attention is the subject line. My interest is going back into Ubix and looking at the history of the prospect. Where do they spend time on the website? You know, what emails have they been opening up? From that, I create a desire statement. So I have desire either based on design, location, or pricing. And then we're gonna go back over here, and people have tools that they can use. Then we create a singular call to action to obtain, you know, for the buyer or the lead, if they want more information, they have to do something. And then a simple thank you. So talking about a template, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a template of, here's a sample subject line. Here would be a sample interest, a sample desire, a sample call to action, and a sample thank you. And what we'll do is we'll build this template. We'll put it into Ubix so all of your salespeople can utilize it. And then they can go in and just modify that template so the emails are getting sent out are at least properly formatted. Okay, so number 2 tip is qualifying. So this is getting the prospect on the phone. So I've got them to respond to my email. The next thing I got to do is I got to talk to them. So this is where I see a lot of salespeople falling down, is they don't set a time to talk. They keep calling and following up and leaving messages, and you know, at this point the buyer, the lead, doesn't really know if they want to talk to you, if you have anything relevant to say. You don't know when they're available to talk, and so we just go through this endless follow-up, and it's a very poor return on energy for the salesperson. So what we're going to do here is we're going to incorporate, you know, teaching them to schedule a time to talk. So 2 different ways to do that. One is using the TimeBridge software, which I'll walk them through. And anyone, it's a free service. Anyone can set up an account. Number 2 would be utilizing the Talk To. And Star, you have on your website right now. This is where they can actually, we put the functionality within Ubix where somebody can get one of your emails. They can click through to a micro page on your website, and they can actually pick a date and time that they want you to call them. You know, and obviously, why would they do that? Because you have information you're going to give them. So, or they can do it that route. And either way, if you're dealing with tight schedules with multiple people, you can use TimeBridge. If you wanted to say, hey, you know, just tell me when you want to schedule a time to talk, I'll call you at your convenience. You can use the Talk To, and all of you have that available to you. So then I will go through the AID-AT formula using the phone, okay, and a script there. And then we're going to look at, okay, reinforcing voicemail. So a lot of us, when we make a call, we may have to make 3 or 4 calls in order to get a hold of one person. So when I leave that voicemail, how do I want to reinforce it? And we'll look at how we can use text and email to reinforce your voicemail in order to get someone to respond. And then we're going to talk about, okay, when I do get them on the phone, the lead intake. What are the 7 areas of qualification? And then identifying the 3 hot buttons. Every lead or buyer, it's said, has typically 3 hot buttons. What are the 3 reasons that are going to cause them to take the next step with you? Once the salesperson identifies them, we're going to move on to number 3, the conversion tip. Okay? So now I've got them on the phone. Now I need to get them in front of me. How do I do that? Well, I focus on the 3 hot buttons. I focus on the visual experience. What are they going to get? Things they can't see. And this is where we're going to introduce, the tablets. If you don't have a model home or you're doing remodeling, is that they can come on, and meet with you and look at things on a tablet. Or they can see a similar home from a model home standpoint. Or they can look at plans or, whatever it is. We do a simple alternative of choice close. If we can't get a firm commitment, we'll do a tentative meeting subject to a schedule confirmation. And if we have to, we'll go back and use TimeBridge again to use that. So the whole idea here is now we've utilized the lead coming through your website. We've utilized the interest based on the history in Ubix. We've identified the 3 areas that would be desirable to get more information on: design, location, and pricing. And then we've got a singular call to action, which is to have a phone call or come to a meeting, thanking them along the way, and we'll be tracking everything in a scorecard so you can see who's doing what. That is it. Real quickly, anything on here that you need further explanation on or would like to include something that I haven't discussed already? Not everyone at once, please.
Maybe everybody fell asleep, Rick.
I have my wife says I have that gift.
I'm not asleep.
Rick, I was wondering if we might be able to get, a copy of the agenda that we could take notes on next week when we're actually going over it. Is
That's a
that
good
possible?
Yeah, actually, well, Runa and I usually are working on agendas right up until that, but we could send out the agenda right before if anyone would like it.
Or even what you have here, it just helps to kind of take notes right where you're talking and easier to recall them.
Sure. Yep, I can send this out. Does this meet everyone's approval? I mean, do you like where we're going here? Do you think it would be helpful?
Very much, yes.
Yes.
Certainly.
Okay. David, Chris, Gordon?
Yeah.
Okay. Chris,
agree.
Okay. Gordon, you good with this? Okay.
So but this is going to, or these items we're going to go, so you're going to go in and train me, is our analysis of productivity going to be tied in to this training?
Yes. Yeah, the scorecard will tie directly into this because the scorecard is going to measure how many phone calls they're making, how many emails they're making, how many appointments they're setting, home site reservations, purchase agreement, plan deposits, all that stuff. So you'll have the entire sales process tracked.
Okay. I think, Rick, we are just about out of time. We can either, what I was going to review was the open house process. Either we have to go over time for 10-15 minutes, or we have to reschedule. And I think this is particularly important for Hallmark Homes, who has open houses coming up quickly. So what should we do?
Well, I guess we'll just take a poll here. We need about 15 minutes because this is the functionality everyone's going to have within Ubix, right, for setting up their own event. So you guys tell us if you want to take 15 minutes right now or if we should reschedule it for a different time.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm fine.
Okay. I don't hear any rebuttals.
Works
So.
for me.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's.
I'm going to have to run, Rick.
I am recording this because Jeremy wanted me to record this meeting, so I will continue to record it, David.
Okay.
I'll send you the link for recording, and then when will everyone have access to it within Ubix, Runa? Within
To the
their
open house?
Yeah, within their systems.
I would say beginning of next week, we'll probably time release it. We'll get it to NIH and Hallmark, and then we could do Michael Lee. And so obviously throughout next week, it probably be depending on events coming up. So whoever has an event coming up will get this first. It should be ready by Monday.
Okay.
And we'll probably implement it according to the master plan.
So I'll send you the recording in a video. Obviously, this is going to be the last 15 minutes of the recording, David. And then Adriana, if you watch that last 15 minutes, and Adriana should be able to support you too with any assistance in getting yours done. So,
Yeah.
okay, thanks, David.
Hey, thanks.
So this is just quickly the scorecard. This is from a Word document, but essentially what we would do is that we would track the number of activities per salesperson, and this is a weekly report. So we'll see how many emails, how many phone calls, how many meetings that they have. We will actually score this. We will set it up like the scoring we have on the customer side, and we can actually then look at the score and that's why it's called scorecard. So you can see look at the score for a salesperson, and then we'll also be able to go in and put some targets in. So overall, we expect a salesperson should get about 100 score, and we have certain expectations on a line item base. So we can see that we expect them to send out so many emails, so many phone calls. But this is dynamic. We can set it up pretty much any way we want to. I will start tracking some trends. That's not going to happen immediately, but there will be some trend tracking to see, where things are going with a particular salesperson. And I think this is all that I want to cover as it comes to the scorecard. We'll go heavily into this. It should be emailed to you on a weekly basis. It should be emailed to the salesperson, and we'll have training specifically to this. Any additional comments or questions with this before I move on to the open house?
I'll make one quick comment. I believe, Runa, correct me if I'm wrong, but what we'll be doing is we're going to allow each company to sort of do a comparison, if they have more than one salesperson, to do a comparison of their own salespeople, and then we're also going to be rolling the data up for every Ubix client.
Yes.
And so we will be able to show you what is the average for all clients, what is the low, what is the high. And if somebody's doing particularly well, we will find out what they're doing and share that information with everyone else, the kind of tips and right. tricks. So
yep.
Hopefully this will be very, very valuable data for you as you manage your sales process in your business.
Right. And this would be the first scorecard. There would be scorecards in each area. This is a starting point. The next one I'm working on is basically a scorecard for the customer lifecycle. So from that perspective, you can see, okay, so how many leads do you have in the prospect? How many leads do you have in the customer lifecycle funnel? How many prospects do you have? What is the conversion from leads to prospects? So that would be the next scorecard after this one. And then we'll probably have similar scorecard for communication and for the sales funnel. So just stay tuned. And we really need better analysis. We need better analytics, and that's what really my next priority is in what we are doing. Okay, shifting gears. Then I'm gonna move into the open house side. Open house actually, this is an automated template system that we've been working on for, well, I've been working on this for years, but we've been working on this particular one for a couple of months. There'll be 5 different, open house templates. One is for open home. That means that you built a home for someone and now you're going to have an open home. Another one would be for model or community. You have a new community, a new model, and we have the same thing, the same event process there. We have remodeling, which would be going very much together with, like an open home. We have realtors, special event for realtors. And then last but not least, we will have home show, templates that we can use. I'm going to focus on the new home because that's the relevant one and then the one we're going to start with. And there are 4 steps in this, essentially. The template, and I'll show you a demo of how this is available. The first one is basically to create all the communication content that goes along with this particular event. That means that you're going to put in a bunch of parameters, you're going to click a button, and everything else is basically created. All the content is created for you, and all the automation are basically going to manage the release of content and communication. So the first step in that automation resulting from the parameters, basically it would be sending out invitations and registrations. Next one is that the people that RSVP will receive pre-event communication, and there will be survey and reminders in there. And then the last one is the post-event. People actually showed up to the event. We'll register who showed up, and we will have communication that also goes to them. So I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to jump into Ubix essentially, and I will show you the way that this is put together. So the first thing we would do is basically we'll go in and we'll go into under communication, and we'll go into maintain events, and in here we'll select the template that we are interested in. In this case, in the long run, there will be 5 different templates: open house, up in the model, the remodeling, But in this case, this is the one that we have put in place, for NIH, and we then select. Actually, when you do this, you will click on Create Event, and you will basically go in here and you will put in the blanks. So again, it would be an open house, and it would be a bunch of parameters in here that we're going to put in place. No, we're not going to do that at this point. I'm going to just jump to an example for you. And let's go back one more, I think, and we're going to just select an event that happened. I'm going to open that one up, and you can see here that all the event-specific information, the parameters are filled out. When this is going to happen. Now we schedule this out in 2014, so nothing's going to happen here. But basically, location, when it starts, when it ends, what's going on. Then there are some special parameters or special collection of information, like the direction, features and benefits that would be substituted in, squeeze page information, the map, and some pictures and some other stuff that we are going to use and substitute into the automated communication.
Hey, Runa, quick question. Under parent event, so if you've done a previous event, you could pull that up and more or less make modifications to that if it's a similar home? Or?
No, not at this point. No, we don't really have it. We don't have a template for templates. I mean, you have to, obviously you can go in and you can copy and paste, from one to the other. You could open up, 2 windows and you could copy in from one to the other, but it's not you have to fill in the blanks.
So what is parent event for?
Okay, so that's a very good question. Forget that. I think that is something for a different industry. So that is not implemented, and I will make a note of that and remove that.
Oh, sorry, I brought it up.
That's probably a good thing you did, but in this context, we have not implemented that. So, okay. So I'm going to just kind of quickly go to what's involved in this. On this one, we can actually go in and we can review all the content that's being created. We can go in and look at an enrollment report. Once we start getting the RSVPs in, we can see who's actually enrolling. And then we have event completion. After the event, we can go in and we can put in who actually showed up. And that information then is tied into the customer intelligence, and we know that going forward. So the first thing I'm going to do is to look at the content. We have the invitation content, which is the 10 here in the nomenclature. We have the pre-event content, and then we also have post-event content. So on the invitation side, it's very much like, okay, so we have this, one-time only opportunity that I think you should consider attending. Here's, things that are being featured. Click here, and you can go in and you can register. So you basically then get to the invitation page. Some of this information will be pre-populated because we know who we're sending it out to, and we can basically then display that. Other information we want that we're missing, we will ask the participant to fill in. Again, we have things that are substituted in here from the parameters. We have that are actually also taken in from the parameters side in the setup. And you click the person invited can then click RSVP. The time is laid out here. The location is not presented at this point. They have to RSVP before they actually will see the location.
Yeah, it's important to note that these first two emails goes out to D leads only. So people you do not have an address or phone number for. And this is a specific strategy to get more information on them so you can call them. And Chris, you can see in the bottom here how we did the photos. You've got one that's the actual home that's under construction still, and then the two that are from a model, from the photo database. So the form will pre-populate, what the system knows. So in this case, the system knew the first name, last name, email, and phone number, and the only thing the person wants to put in is their address. If it's a prospect it's going out to, which the second two emails go out to prospects, and you already have their address and their phone number and all that in there, everything will be pre-populated, and all they do is press RSVP here, and they'll be all set.
And then basically click RSVP, then at that point you get to see where the location is, you get the map, you get additional instructions. Okay, additional comments, Rick?
Nope. It's just we hold back a little bit of information in order to get some more information. It's the same strategy I went through before on the controlled release.
Okay. Then essentially as the enrollment goes on, you can then go in, at whatever on demand. You can go in here and see actually who has registered for this. So in this case, this is NIH, that's 25 people registered. And once someone RSVP'd, there is additional communication going out. There's kind of a, I see you RSVP, thank you for, doing this. To get the most out of, the event, we would like to get some feedback from you. Here's, a survey. Please give us, some additional information, and that will increase the value of participating. I don't know if you want to comment anything on this one, Rick, or?
Well, I think people get kind of annoyed with surveys, and so the way I presented this was, hey, we get asked a lot to provide additional information about our homes at these open houses. So I can be best prepared for when you arrive. Tell me what you're looking for. And so then we ask them 4 questions. Okay, I want more information on floor plans or color palettes or financing. I would prefer to buy a completed new home, or I want to build one. Do I need assistance selling my current home? If you have like a backup sale program, they can put that on here. And then they have an open box to tell you if there's anything else specifically they're looking for.
We typically, in other industry, we get probably 30 to 40%, so anyone who RSVP, we get with 30-40% response rate on this. So this would be very valuable when you actually get to the open house event, and you can be much more relevant, and you have an immediate contact point, with the individual coming.
And Runa, I believe that whoever the leader prospect is assigned to from a salesperson standpoint, they will get the survey results.
Yes,
and so if
we will. We have a distribution list actually that this once this one is submitted, it would automatically go out to a distribution list. Probably the sales manager and the salesperson.
Yeah, so the salesperson will know. Oh, okay. Sue and Bob are coming and they want to know about colors, or they need financing information. You'll have that information, so you really can prepare it and have it ready for them. And then, of course, that gives you a reason. when NIH is doing these, would tell me that they'll have 25 to 30 groups through in a 3-hour period. So you have to staff up for these when you get a big enough database. But if somebody requests information ahead of time, you create a reason where you need to talk to them. One of the challenges they have, of course, is getting to everybody, being able to talk to everybody, and seeing who's ready to take that next step and do the initial consultation.
Yeah, so in that case, you might strategy before the open house, so a salesperson know exactly who they should be targeting in the meeting. Okay, then after the event, we have the registration. We can actually go in then and check who actually came in, who actually participated. So some people are not going to show up, some people are going to show up. And we will capture this into the system and basically have the participation logged in, for the, going forward. And then the people that did show up, we then actually get into the post-event communication. So glad you have an opportunity to participate. Also here we would, put in maybe promotional information, or collect, additional information from it, an additional survey. And so in this case, please give us some feedback. What's your favorite design? Least favorite design? How would you rank the style of the open house 1 through 5? And some additional information you might want to have. Rick, that's pretty much the end on my side. Is there any? I know Chris and Gordon are getting ready, and other people are getting ready for event. Any general guidance to get the most out of open houses? Perhaps
I will just the only thing I will say is, from a lead conversion standpoint, this is your most powerful tool, the open house, and it doesn't matter if it's a well, I should say that what works the best is the pre-sold home. The one thing that will create urgency and drive people to come is if they only have one chance to see it. So a model grand opening is not going to be as heavily attended as, say, a pre-sold. So remodeling projects works great because of that, and all your custom homes. So as a salesperson, going back to what I was talking about in the training process, is how am I going to create desire? The best way I can create desire is, hey, we're showing this home coming up next Tuesday, and it's a one-time only deal. Would you like an invitation? That is by far the strongest reason for a D lead to reach out. And we've been testing this, and we're seeing really good results where D leads are standing up and they're raising their hand and saying, yeah, I want an invitation. Okay, here's a link to register. And then they go in and give you their address and their phone number, and now I'm able to have a conversation with them, and I just converted them from a lead to a prospect.
Couple of quick other observations is that we will tie this together with the Facebook application. So the Facebook application actually will follow a building project, from its inception, basically invite friends and family and everyone else, to follow, the building project, and then it basically ties directly in, to the open house project. The other thing we will tie in with this one is that we have a reward program. I know, Robot Home has a reward program, and we will also tie that in here, so you can have additional motivation for what we call a client sponsor, that the one that makes the home available, for this.
So you get the person you built the home for excited to invite their friends and family to come to the open house, knowing that if somebody builds, they get a spiff or a reward. And so just like the Facebook application, they help you spread the word.
Adriana, on your side, have you sent an email to Gordon and to Chris, and you basically identify the information that we need here to to receive, so you can schedule this?
I got it.
You got it. Okay.
Yeah,
so we're getting very tight on time there. So we'll do the best we can, but we should be able to do something. This application will be ready on Monday, so we'll fire it off then, and see what we can get done. Any additional thing from your side, Adriana, that you need?
No.
Okay. Okay, good. That's it. I think in terms of this meeting, next couple of weeks we're going to focus on the lead to to prospect conversion, and you will send out a link to the recording of this part, Rick, and then I assume you're going to send out your outline for